What's up guys, my name is Ace, and since the launch of Warzone, we've gone through many different cycles of meta weapons. And a common topic I keep seeing pop up is people talking about what their favorite time period or meta was in Warzone's life cycle. And today, I wanted to share why I feel the best metas that we had in Warzone so far have been with the Grau 556 and the Kilo 141. To me, those periods of time where those two guns were on top, that was when Warzone was at its best. And I'm going to be sharing exactly why I feel that's the case, and I'm going to contrast that with the current meta that we have right now in Warzone, which is the FFAR and also the AUG. And this will probably come at no surprise to you. The primary reason that I enjoyed Warzone the most when the Grau or the Kilo were on top is the time to kill and the amount of time to react to a situation where you're being shot at by the top gun in the game. With the Grau against full health and 3 armor plates, the time to kill is going to be 664 milliseconds in close quarter situations, and then at longer ranges, it's going to be 913 milliseconds. As for the Kilo, at least when it was on top, our time to kill up close was 640 milliseconds, and at long range it was 800 milliseconds, although they've now added another damage range on top of that, where our time to kill is actually over a second now. But we're talking about when the Kilo was on top. This was 800 milliseconds at long range. And let's compare that to the current meta, the FFAR. This gun kills in 462 milliseconds in its maximum damage range, and even at its longest ranges, assuming you're hitting every bullet, it's going to kill in 594 milliseconds. So this time to kill is significantly faster than the time to kill that we experience with the Grau or the Kilo. I also wanted to briefly bring the AUG in here. One of the big reasons the AUG is so powerful is all it takes is one single headshot mixed in with body shots to get a 2-burst kill. And if you're able to do that, which many people do very consistently, your time to kill potential against 3 armor plates is 550 milliseconds at all ranges. So there is a very clear difference in the time to kill that we're currently experiencing against the most used guns compared to what we would experience back when the Grau or the Kilo was meta. And when you factor in the average human reaction time, which is about 250 milliseconds, what this means is against an FFAR, from the moment you even register that you've been hit to the moment you are dead when you have full armor plates on, is just 212 milliseconds. And this is assuming no headshots are even included here. When you start mixing headshots in, it gets even faster and this shrinks even more. And 200 milliseconds simply isn't enough time to do anything. There's no real ability to effectively fight back or trying to get to cover or try to even like throw a slide in to try and throw their aim off. If somebody's got really good aim and they're actually reaching this time to kill potential, you basically have no shot at fighting back, and it often leads to just really jarring deaths where you're feeling like, I have full health, full armor, people shouldn't be able to kill me in what feels like an instant. And yet, they're doing that with the FFAR and also the AUG. Whereas back when the Grau was meta, for instance, you would have double that amount of time to do something, to either try and evade shots, get to cover, or just shoot back at your target. You would have over 400 milliseconds. Now, of course, I do realize these are the theoretical limits of the time to kill, and realistically speaking, a lot of people will be missing some shots here or there, although in the higher skilled lobbies, it's much more rare that people are going to be missing shots often. But the main thing to point out is there is a very noticeable difference in time to kill from when the Grau was meta to now when the FFAR is meta. And essentially what we've seen here is a huge amount of power creep. And power creep is something that occurs in games often when new items are added to the game. They typically want those items to be highly sought after, they want them to be good, and therefore they'll make them a little bit better than what was in the game previously, so people will be incentivized to use that. Another way that power creep can pop up is if devs are just constantly buffing things rather than nerfing anything. And this is why I think it's a little bit ridiculous when you have people that think that there should always only be buffs and nothing should ever be nerfed. Everything else should always be buffed up to match the top tier guns. And sometimes this is definitely appropriate to buff the bottom of the barrel guns. I actually wouldn't be opposed to this right now with Warzone. If they took the guns that like literally nobody uses, they are bottom of the barrel, I wouldn't be opposed at all to buffing some of those guns up a little bit. At the same time though, I don't think we should be buffing everything up to become as powerful as the FFAR, because then the time to kill would just be completely out of control, and there would be very little time to react to situations when you're being shot at. Now, some people do think that the time to kill should be very fast, especially a lot of the people that think that Warzone should be a hyper-realistic military game. But for many people, that's their preference. They want people to die really, really quickly, even when they have armor plates equipped. However, I don't think this is good for the gameplay overall, and I think this significantly reduces the skill gap as well. Now, one of the big reasons I'm against this really fast time to kill, aside from the obvious really jarring deaths, is a super fast time to kill in a battle royale significantly discourages movement and encourages camping. If moving from one area to another is an extremely scary thing where at any moment you could die basically instantly without time to react or fight back or get to cover, not very many people are going to do that because that would be a stupid move. Therefore, people will be heavily encouraged to basically just sit in buildings for as long as possible until they're forced out of them by the gas, or they'll sit on rooftops, and they'll just wait and try and pick off the unsuspecting suckers that are actually moving around. And I feel like these sort of playstyles are already rewarded fairly heavily, so they don't need to have that advantage of having a near instant time to kill on top of this to make them even more powerful against people that are actually moving around the map. Additionally, by having a super fast time to kill, it reduces people's reliance on gun skill. And by gun skill, I mean not only getting on target first and getting that first shot on target, which is still very important, but also following that up with good recoil control, good accuracy, and also good movement in a fight. So strafing back and forth to try and avoid shots, or jump shotting or drop shotting, or using cover effectively. With a really fast time to kill, a lot of those skills basically go out the window, and it essentially just boils down to who sees who first. And in my opinion, positioning should always be very important and it should be rewarded, so you should be rewarded for seeing the other player first, but it shouldn't be the only deciding factor about who wins or loses that situation. Now on top of this, another reason I really liked the Grau or the Kilo metas compared to the FFAR meta that we currently have is those guns weren't necessarily the most dominant in any given situation. Instead, the reason they were so good and popular is they were just good at everything. They were good at all ranges. You could comfortably challenge people well beyond 100 meters with those and still be quite accurate, and they could even hold their own in relatively close quarter situations, although a lot of people would pair them with an SMG and overkill. And since those meta guns were mainly loved for their versatility rather than their power in any given situation, there was a lot more room to go off meta and still succeed against these meta weapons. So for all those people that are using the Grau for their long-range gun, I could use a marksman rifle or a sniper rifle for my long-range gun, and I would actually have a pretty clear advantage over them because one single headshot on them equals a kill, whereas they have to hit like 10 or 11 shots on me in order to take me down. Then, in close-range situations, SMGs absolutely dominated the Grau and the Kilo. So this opened up a lot more room to play around with different things, because even though your off-meta gun might not be as good in as many situations as the Kilo or the Grau, you could at least find situations where it would dominate the Kilo and the Grau. Whereas when we contrast that with the FFAR meta, the FFAR is objectively better than all of the SMGs in close quarters, it kills faster than all of the SMGs in close quarters, plus it's got a lot of the benefits of an assault rifle, so you can use it out to a pretty decent range and still get a ridiculous time to kill potential. And then most people will be pairing this with a Kar 98 or an SPR or something along those lines to handle their long-range situations. What this means is if you're against a competent player using an FFAR combined with a marksman rifle, there really isn't much freedom to go off meta and still be able to compete against that setup. And I really feel like this is one of the big reasons that Warzone lost a lot of its magic for me when the Cold War integration hit. Because initially when the Cold War integration happened, the DMR meta was even more insane than the FFAR meta because it would melt you pretty much instantly at all ranges with near perfect accuracy. So that I didn't find to be enjoyable at all to play against, and I just didn't play during the DMR meta. And I'm actually reaching that same point right now with the FFAR meta. I just feel like there are way too many of those jarring insta-deaths with no real time to react and do anything to fight back. Plus, attempting to go off meta, especially with skill-based matchmaking involved, is just a death sentence, and I don't find that to be enjoyable at all. There's no real situations where I feel like I can gain an edge over an FFAR user by going off meta. And I really feel like there's only a small handful of guns right now that you can use to even be somewhat competitive against an FFAR, even though you're technically still putting yourself at a disadvantage against FFAR users. So yeah, in my opinion, I really feel like Warzone was at its best when the versatile but relatively slow killing guns were on top. And I would love to see Warzone return to a state where that's once again the case. I think there should be guns that kill faster than those meta guns that most people are choosing. However, they should have some built-in downsides that make them quite difficult to use and make them not really the top tier choice for everybody because they're just not versatile enough. If a gun has a lot of power and potential in one particular area, it needs to be held back in other areas, in my opinion, to get weapon balance in an overall better state. Of course, these are all just my opinions. I'm really curious to hear in the comment section below, what has your favorite weapon meta been so far in Warzone's lifecycle? Additionally, what are your thoughts on the current meta with the FFAR and the AUG? Do you agree with me? Do you feel like the overall time to kill is just too fast right now and that the game would improve overall if they were to increase this time to kill across the board? Or do you have a different opinion? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.